Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you are completely exhausted by a mind that just will not quit racing, you are in the exact right place today. We're opening up a really vital, evidence-based toolkit designed to help you finally break that exhausting cycle of a racing mind. We're going to look at the actual clinical science of overthinking, and more importantly, how you can systematically shut it down.
We've all felt like this, right? Like there's just this tangled, chaotic scribble of thoughts buzzing around right above our heads. Well, I really want to validate your struggle here. Your inability to stop overthinking is not just some quirky personality habit. It is a genuine, deeply rooted biological and clinical loop. Basically, your brain is getting caught in a gear that it just doesn't know how to shift out of.
So, a really crucial point to understand is that in clinical psychology, overthinking actually has a specific name. It's called repetitive negative thinking, or RNT. Now, RNT isn't just a fleeting worry, it's what experts call a transdiagnostic risk factor. And that just means it's the underlying engine driving the onset, the maintenance, and even the relapse of multiple disorders, especially anxiety and depression. So this is the true nature of the beast we're tackling today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our game plan for today. First, we'll uncover the overthinking trap. Then, we'll move into hacking your thought patterns, taking back executive control, the mind-body connection, and finally, optimizing your environment. Section 1. The overthinking trap. To effectively dismantle overthinking, we first have to understand exactly what we are fighting. And clinically, it manifests in two very distinct ways. The first is rumination. This is a past or present-oriented focus that literally drags us backward into perceived failures, distress, and depressive feelings. On the flip side, we have worry, which is future-oriented. This is fueled entirely by the anticipation of uncertain threats, pulling us forward with wide, anxious eyes. But here's the catch. Both of them keep us completely disconnected from the present moment.
And honestly, overthinking isn't just all in your head. The biological toll of what scientists call perseverative cognition is massive. By replaying stressors in your mind over and over, you chronically activate your body's fight or flight systems. Your HPA axis starts pumping out the stress hormone cortisol. Fascinatingly, your immune system actually spikes inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 for up to 48 hours following a stressor. That's 2 whole days. And in the brain, it triggers amygdala hypervigilance and a severe mental fatigue known as ego depletion. So you aren't just stressed, you are literally exhausting your body at a cellular level.
All right, Section 2. Hacking your thought patterns. Now that we understand the biological trap, let's shift gears to our first set of behavioral solutions, because we really need to change how we process information. One of the absolute most dangerous traps is decontextualized analysis. That's when you ask, why is this happening to me? Or why did I make that mistake? That just leads to shame and paralysis. Instead, therapeutic frameworks emphasize replacing that abstract why with a highly concrete what. Ask yourself, what can I do right now to improve this situation? This kind of functional analysis is incredibly powerful. It forces your brain out of the default mode network, which handles aimless mind wandering, and activates your central executive network, which drives actual goal-directed problem solving.
Now, what is truly fascinating about the neurobiology of overthinking is this 90-second limit. The initial surge of chemicals through your body that creates a pure emotional response only lasts about 90 seconds. Yep, a minute and a half. So if you're feeling intense anxiety, anger, or sadness past that 90-second mark, it's because you are actively stoking the fire through mental rehearsal. Recognizing this biological limit is honestly a real game changer. It gives you permission to step back and consciously choose to disengage.
Section 3. Taking back executive control.
People who overthink often suffer from this metacognitive belief that their thoughts are just entirely uncontrollable. Well, to prove to your brain who is actually in charge, enter the worry period. Here's how it works. Step 1. Schedule a specific, limited window, say 30 minutes at 5 p.m., that is strictly dedicated to worrying. Step 2. When anxious thoughts inevitably pop up at, say, 10 a.m., you acknowledge them, but step 3, you consciously postpone engaging with them until 5 p.m. By compartmentalizing your anxiety like this, you prevent it from dominating your entire day. And more importantly, you shatter that false belief that you have to ruminate right this second. You literally prove to yourself that you have executive control.
But, what happens when those heavy thoughts do hit? Overthinking absolutely thrives on cognitive distortions. These are rigid, inaccurate patterns that skew reality and leave us totally paralyzed. We've got catastrophizing, where you imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. We have all-or-nothing thinking, where you're either a total success or a complete failure, no in between. And overgeneralizing, which is applying one single negative event to your entire future.
You have to urge yourself to treat these distortions not as objective facts that demand panic, but just as mere hypotheses. Ask yourself, wait, what concrete evidence do I actually have to support this thought?
Moving right along to Section 4, the mind-body connection.
Overcoming overthinking is not just a mental game. Physiological interventions are absolutely mandatory for a calmer mind. Chronic rumination literally suppresses a crucial protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short. Low BDNF acts like a lock, suppressing neuroplasticity and trapping you in rigid maladaptive thinking. But active movement? That is the key to unlocking it. Exercise directly promotes the release of BDNF, endogenous opioids, and serotonin, completely optimizing your brain's neurochemical environment for emotional stability.
And what's cool is that different types of movement act as specific, targeted interventions against negative thoughts. Aerobic exercise triggers what's called the distraction hypothesis, diverting your attention away from internal negative emotions. Resistance training is amazing because it requires sustained focus on breathing and muscle movement, right? So this redistributes your cognitive resources, literally pulling attention away from negative stimuli. Finally, mind-body exercises like yoga anchor your attention to present-moment somatic experiences, pulling you right out of that abstract future worry.
Beyond just physical movement, there is mental flexibility, and the impact here is massive, a 30% improved stress recovery rate. That is the biological advantage individuals gain when they adopt a growth mindset compared to a fixed one. Overthinking is heavily driven by harsh self-criticism and perfectionism, but when you replace that with self-compassion and the belief that you can develop and learn through effort, you literally soothe your brain's internal threat system. You build immense resilience and start viewing challenges as opportunities rather than permanent character flaws.
Finally, Section 5, optimizing your environment. So we focused a lot on your internal world, but your external surroundings act as a profound modulator of your cognitive state. Let's start with the most common environment today, our digital one. Staring into a smartphone facilitates constant upward social comparison. You are constantly fed images of people seemingly doing better than you, which triggers intense social appearance anxiety and endless mental looping. So taking a digital step back and limiting screen time isn't just a nice piece of advice, it is a clinical essential for protecting your mental well-being from those comparison triggers.
But watch how dramatically this biological response changes when we swap the digital world for the natural one. At 0 minutes, an overthinker has high activity in the subgenual prefrontal cortex, which is essentially the brain's rumination center. By 45 minutes in a natural setting, self-focused withdrawal actually decreases, and by 90 minutes, studies show a significant biological decrease in depressive rumination. Physically relocating to nature quite literally quiets the brain down.
And nature isn't the only environmental buffer out there. Combating the isolation of overthinking means building up social capital. By engaging in community activities and building neighborhood trust, you cultivate what sociologists call weak ties. These are relationships with acquaintances that have very low emotional demands, but they act as a massive buffer against modern psychological pressures and achievement competition. Basically, a supportive, low-demand social environment physically reduces the psychological space available for overthinking to even take root.
So, we've broken down the whole shebang, the biology, the cognitive shifts, the physiology, and the environment. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought today. What is the very first step you will take today to walk away from the digital world and step out into nature or your community? You now have the tools and you have the executive control. It is time to apply just one of these life hacks in the real world right now. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, here's to a calmer mind.